Hello, welcome to What's Your Story? Every week, I bring you a guest who's authentic and genuine, who will provide insights and practical advice that you can put to use in your business, your career, or your personal life. Today, we're going to explore the world of executive coaching. Now, I know that every other person you meet on the street says they're a coach, but today we're going to deal with the real thing, an executive coach working with the highest level executives in today's corporations. If you were at the top of the heap of an organization, to whom do you go to get advice and guidance so that you can achieve your goals for the organization? It can get lonely at the top. My guest today is Michael Seitchik. He brings a special brand of executive coaching into the C-suite to empower executives to make the kind of impact they need to make to move the needle for their organization. Michael, welcome to What's Your Story?
Right, thank you, Charlie. Thank you.
So let's get into it quickly.
Sure.
What is it that you as an executive coach does for your clients?
Well, one way to look at it is I generally work with coaches, with individuals, or with teams that are kind of stuck. So what I do is giving them a kind of loving kick in the butt and get them to get unstuck, and luckily most say thank you very much. So what I really do is give people new ways to think and act to make them more effective in their jobs. Now, I'm not for everybody because not everybody likes that approach, but what I do during the contracting phase is make sure that the people I'm going to work with are really ready for change, as opposed to they're just doing it to check off a box like I got coaching or I work with a team on strategic thinking or something like that. I'm working with people who really feel a little stuck and need some help in figuring out what's the best way to move forward and make progress.
So what do you hope to accomplish with the audience today?
I hope to give you some examples so you can see how I work, so you can make a decision whether I'd be someone or have a style that would be appropriate for what you want or not want to work with, which is fine with me.
Yeah, I think that's wise on your part. So exactly who's the audience? For whom do you perform the coaching?
Okay, so I work with individual executives and teams, and usually what is happening with whether it's an individual or an executive team is that something has changed, and it's the old saying of, what got you here won't get you there. So for example, maybe someone has moved to a new position, additional scope, additional responsibility. We like to say that maybe they've moved to a bigger stage. So they've been successful in their past role, but they can't just rely on what made them successful in their past role. They need to do some more things. They need to add more arrows to their quiver. Or a team has been really great at, say, implementing strategy, but now they have to go through significant change or they have to innovate. So something has changed and they feel a little stuck. So that's what I do. I get people unstuck.
So what is the outcome, the end game that most people seek when they work with you?
Yeah, well, sometimes they don't know. They just know that they feel a little stuck. So maybe I'll give you an example.
Go ahead.
Okay. So let me give you an example of someone I coached. They were a very successful executive. They were the head of a $2 billion division in a pretty large company. They were an extremely successful implementer of strategy. The person was an engineer, had been in the military. This was his kind of second career. So he had been an officer in the military. So people trusted him, really liked him. He got great results. But he was just an executor of someone else's strategy. And now he was facing a situation where he had to take his division through an extraordinary change initiative because the whole industry was changing. And so what I like to do sometimes, not always, but to collect some data just to figure out what's going on. So we did a 360 survey, And the one I use really gives the individual, this person, insights into how people are perceiving him. Because I don't look at what are their skill levels, because at a senior high level, it's really how people are perceiving you that makes a difference. So he scored really high on lots of things like integrity, through the roof, but on things like vision and what we call authenticity, he scored relatively low. So because of low vision, people really didn't know where we were going. And in a change initiative, people want to know, so where are we going? His low scores in authenticity meant that he was not being transparent about what he was thinking, what he was feeling, where he was coming from. And actually, I can show you some of the verbatim comments that were on it, so if we want to bring that up. If the control room can bring up those verbatim comments.
Arif, do you have that slide?
Oh, no, yeah, that's, I'm gonna have to, that's the wrong slide, sorry about that.
So why don't you just share with
Yeah,
us? What do
so
you remember?
people said on their comments things like,
Arif, you can take that down now.
people said things like, who are you? What do you stand for? What is your opinion? Who is the real you? They wanted to get a better feel of who this guy was before they were going to follow him through this massive change.
Right.
So we had an 8-month coaching engagement, so I can't go over all of it, but essentially what I did was, I said, well, let's work on your vision. And he said, it was interesting. So he challenged me. He says, prove to me that I really need to work on a vision. I don't think it's important. Prove to me. So we spent a session or two going over that. He finally came convinced that he needed a vision, a compelling, inspiring vision. And we worked on it, and he presented it. And part of his presentation was talking about why he is so passionate about his vision, how it's based on his past experience, his beliefs. In the next discussion, his HR business partner joined us and said, I've never seen that side of that guy. I didn't know he had this passion in him. He was inspiring, and after 9 months, we repeated the 360 survey, and the results were in vision and in authenticity, he went up on a 5-point scale, he went up 3/4 of a point to a point on almost every item. So not only did he feel different and he got great feedback, we measured the difference. So what I like to do is not only help people change, but to make a measurable difference that really has an impact on the business.
So I'm curious as to what happened to that transformation that he had to lead as a result of him having more awareness
Right.
of where he needed to improve.
It was very successful. In other words, people were really bought in. He also included them more, because that was another thing he scored low in, that he tend not to include people in decisions enough. So he had kind of like a town hall meeting where he presented his vision and then broke the people down into small groups and said, okay, what's missing in my vision? What questions do you have? What concerns do you have? Because when people are going through change, they're really anxious. What does this mean for me? Do I have to change? What value am I going to bring? So it gave people an opportunity to do all that. So people were really engaged and excited. And it was very successful.
Well, thanks for sharing that, because it is very complicated when we hear the word change or transformation.
Right.
People have all kinds of ideas about that. Now, when you work with clients in their companies, what's the role you play? And
Right.
Arif, would you bring up that slide again,
Right.
please? So explain using this slide what your role is.
Yeah. So I like to play the role of a trusted advisor. And here is a graph I made as a result of my experience of essentially being a trusted advisor. At one point, I was in healthcare, and I was in human resources, and human resources reported to the CFO, and the CFO became the CEO, and he asked me to be his right-hand man. And I asked him, well, why me? He said, well, two things. You understand the business, and you tell the truth. I'm a very powerful person, and everybody tells me what they think I want to hear, and you tell me what I need to hear. So this is my journey. So I started out as kind of a subject matter expert. So, for example, if I'm a coach, I can be a subject matter expert in coaching or in that 360 survey. So I'm a subject matter expert, or I can be a great engineer. The next one up is a problem solver, and that is I can not only coach someone, but someone can say, gee, I have a problem delegating or getting collaboration on my team. Can you help me? And that's a problem solver. So you're adding some more value as opposed to just being a subject matter expert. The next part of my journey was I was a catalyst. And as a catalyst, as a problem solver, you're reacting to their problems, to their requests. As a catalyst, you're being proactive. In other words, you're saying, well, here's a hypothesis I have. Based on the feedback and what I've seen and observed, it looks like you may need help in X. Or you may not have thought about this, but how about this? And so then you're really adding a tremendous amount of value because you're bringing your experience either as a coach or as a business person, and I've been an executive, so I have some insights that other coaches do not have, and that's a catalyst. And so, for example, once to this CEO, he put me in charge of mergers and acquisitions, and we were going to merge this other hospital. And he said, sorry, I had to keep it secret from you. And I said, well, great, glad you were able to do that, but I have one question for you. And he said, what's that? I said, who's going to be CEO? He said, I am. I said, does the other guy know that? He goes, no.
You mean the acquired company?
Yeah, the acquired
wow.
company. And I said, well, if I were you, I would go out to dinner tonight, but this was a Friday. They were going to have the joint board meeting on that Monday. And I said, I'd take the guy out to dinner, talk to him, and bring this up.
Ah.
So I come back to work Monday morning, and the CEO gives me this tremendous hug. And I go, what's going on? He says, you saved me embarrassment and millions of dollars because he thought he was going to be CEO.
Oh, wow.
So the deal's off. So that's being a catalyst and led me to being his trusted advisor because now he totally trusted me. He could talk about his concerns, his vulnerabilities, his weakness. At one gathering, his wife came up to me and said, you know, you're like his second wife. We're the only two people that can tell him the truth. So that's a trusted advisor. Now, to be honest, am I a trusted advisor with all my clients? No. Hopefully, at least I am a catalyst.
Well, to become that trusted advisor, not everybody's willing to be vulnerable and open to you.
Correct.
Sometimes you're not hired to be their trusted advisor. You're there to be the catalyst, for example.
It took us several years for that to happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Listen, we have to take a break. We're going to hear a couple words from our sponsors. I'm here with Michael Seitchik. When we come back, Michael's going to dive a little bit deeper into this world of executive coaching. Back in a moment.
They are the greatest fighting force the world has ever seen. But what does it take to strengthen our service members? What does it take to let them know that we stand behind them, wherever they are? What does it take to bridge the distance and keep them connected to family, home, and country? And what does it take to prepare them for their future when their service to the nation is complete? What does it take to strengthen our service members so they can be the greatest force for good in the world? It takes a force. Be a force behind the forces. Share a message today at force.uso.org.
I want to be a contender. I want a warm belly to sleep on.
A big house.
How do I look? Do I look good?
I want to play hard.
My nails done once a month.
I want.
I want a home. I just want a home. I want someone to love.
Last year, more than 30,000 companion animals came to us without homes. 20,000 of them were felines. Let's make some homes together.
Welcome back to What's Your Story? Every week I bring you a guest who's authentic and genuine, who provides insights and practical advice that you can put to use in your business, your personal life, your professional life. My guest today is Michael Seitchik. Michael is a very unusual executive coach. I have a question for you.
Sure.
Who's the ideal kind of person you love to coach?
Okay. Well, I love to coach someone who feels that they're stuck. Either they've been given an increased scope, something isn't working, and they're open to hearing and getting help. Or it's an executive team where the industry is going through some kind of disruptive change, and they're struggling with figuring out, what do we do? What do we do next? As I said, I work with individuals or with teams that feel a little stuck.
So what makes you different? There are tons of coaches out there, tons of consultants.
Right.
So what is it that your clients are sort of telling you
Right.
that makes you different or it's distinguished from others?
Right. So what they tell me is I do two things. One, I bring unconventional thinking to them, and two, I challenge the status quo.
Tell us more about this.
Well, so for unconventional thinking, I was once called upon by a CEO of a grocery store chain that wanted to be the industry leader in customer satisfaction or customer intimacy. So we had some discussions, and I said, well, I believe that to really be innovative, what you need to do is benchmark against the best in the world at customer satisfaction, not your competitors, because you can't innovate by copying somebody else. And after you copy them, people don't learn anything new.
You mean somebody in his space?
Right.
Okay.
So what we did was we took 20 of his best and brightest people, and we put them in 3 different hotels, the Ritz-Carlton, the Four Seasons, places like that that are known worldwide for customer service. And we say, take notes. And take notes of when you experienced exceptional service, you were kind of felt delighted, and just take those notes. And so people did that, and then the next day I worked with a person who is great at innovation and creativity. I don't pretend I'm an expert in everything, so sometimes I bring in colleagues who are subject matter experts. And what we did is we had those people take their experiences from the hotel and try and apply it to the grocery business. And what it did was it took them out of their narrow, myopic focus on the grocery business and just opened them up to different ideas. So we had fun in the beginning, so some of the ideas were a little creative and innovative and not that practical, but by the afternoon we narrowed it down to some practical ideas. For example, one person said, well, gee, some people hate shopping. Why don't they come in, give a concierge their shopping list, and in the back of the grocery store is a spa. And they go to a spa and come out and there's their groceries. Now, that wasn't necessarily practical, but that's the kind of ideas, that's the juice that was flowing, because if they just said, how can we improve this store, they would not think out of the box like that.
Yeah.
So that was unconventional thinking.
What about,
The challenging the status quo?
yeah, let's go there.
Okay, so I was once approached by a high-tech firm, and they actually hired me, so this is a sense of little pride, they hired me. I was competing against McKinsey, and they hired me because of my unconventional, out-of-the-box thinking and my challenging the status quo. So I was at this meeting with all the product development leaders and the head of HR for that division, because this high-tech firm felt that they were, while they were tremendous engineers and had really well-built laptops, say, they were not like Apple. They were not as innovative. They didn't have this passion, this religion around them. And that's what they wanted. They wanted to beat Apple. So when I said, okay, so let's talk about the program, they said, well, what we want you to do is we want you to write up some case studies about Apple so we can benchmark against Apple and copy what Apple does. And I think I've already mentioned, I don't believe that copying your competitors is going to lead to any innovation or sustainable competitive advantage. So I said, you know, I really don't think we ought to do that. Apple keeps their secret sauce kind of secret, and they pushed back. And they said, well, you know people at Stanford and MIT and all these places, they can find out the secret sauce. So I decided to push back again, and I said, well, Apple has a whole ecosystem. You'd have to acquire different kinds of companies. You'd have to change the culture. It'd take at least 10 years. Let's say you were super at it, and it took 5. You're now 5 years behind. So they said, well, listen, Michael, we've always done benchmarking, and that's what we want you to do. So I have a rule in my head of kind of knock 3 times, 3 strikes and you're out. So I only had 2 strikes now. So I decided to do, as I said in the beginning, give them a little kick in the butt. So I said, well, so who does Apple benchmark against?
Great question.
Silence. Who does Google benchmark against? Silence. So I broke the silence and said, okay, so that's not what we want to do. Here's what I suggest we do. And we talked about it. And they said, let's take a break. So they took a break, and as soon as all the executives left, the HR woman, she came up to me, gave this tremendous hug, and she said, that's why I hired you. You're going to challenge the status quo. The others are going to tell us what they think we want to hear. You tell us what we need to hear. That's why I hired you. So to make a longer story short, we went through this, and the engineers, we put them in action learning projects. They came up, we taught them a little bit about scenario planning and creative thinking, but we put them to work on actual, real issues they were having, and they came up with some nice, innovative products.
You didn't get to this stage of subject matter expertise, the ability to work with diverse groups, change how people see things overnight. So would you share with the audience a little bit about your journey? You've mentioned along the way you were in the hospital.
Right.
Could you share with people what got you here?
Right. Well, I've had a long, strange journey. So,
this is a family program.
right. So, well, let me give you a little flavor. My first job out of college, I was teaching junior high school science in Camden, New Jersey. And this was the late 60s. And at the time, Camden was the murder capital of the United States. And the first day I walk into my first class, and all the girls are sitting in the front, with their hands folded. And all the guys are in the back gambling, pitching pennies. And I said, I got to do something. So I don't know what got into me. This wasn't planned. So I stood on the desk, which was about this high. I stood on the desk and held a piece of paper and their textbook and said, which is going to hit the floor first? Oh. And I got everybody's attention. So I said to the guys, sit down, because they were betting which was going to hit the ground first. And so I let it drop. I gave like a 2-minute talk on gravity. And I said, listen, I'm going to make this class as interesting as possible. We're going to have fun. We're going to learn a lot. But I'm not going to play games. If you want to gamble, leave. I'm not going to proactively turn you in. But if you get caught cutting class, I will say you cut class. But sit down if you want to learn. Everybody sat down. And so that was September. I'll cut out a lot of the middle. So comes May, they take their standardized science test, and 80% of the students passed.
Wow.
So the principal calls me.
Historically, what was the score?
So the principal calls me down. I think he's going to congratulate me. He says, "We have a problem with your scores." I go, "What do you mean?" He says, "We don't have enough room in ninth grade for all the students you passed. Historically, only 40% passed, and you're
Wow.
passing 80%. You have to fail half the students." I said, "I can't do that." He says, "Well, then you're fired." I said, "Fine." I was fired.
So you tell people what they need to hear, you think and act unconventionally, and it started way back in your first job.
Yeah, and it brought out those kids were not dumb, right? They were all poor. It was about 1/3 white, 1/3 Hispanic, 1/3 black, and no one had ever thought they could do anything.
Got it.
And by treating them with respect, assuming they could learn, look, the 80% pass as opposed to 40%. So their potential was there, and that gave me such a thrill that that's what I do, whether I'm teaching in high school, at the hospital, running exec ed at Wharton, what I do now. What really makes my day is seeing people say, "I didn't know I could do that." All right? There's a famous person in organizational development, which is my field, Edie Seashore, and what she says to people is, up until now, people say, "Oh, I can't do that." Well, up until now. Now we're going to teach you how to do something else. So that's what keeps me motivated, keeps me feeling energized and young, is seeing people say, "Wow, I didn't know I could do that."
Michael, we've run out of time.
Okay.
I appreciate how candid and open you've been today. That's the theme of this show. This is the opportunity for you to look into the camera and say whatever you want to the audience, make them whatever offer you want to make them so that you can help them in their journey.
Okay. Well, two things. One, my latest passion is I just wrote an article on, I called it the Goldilocks approach to conflict. It talks about how you can have constructive conflict. And if you're interested, I believe you can go to, look me up at LinkedIn. It's Michael Seitchik. There's not too many Michael Seichiks. Just spell the name right. And the other thing is, if you know of someone, either a senior executive or a senior executive team, that's really struggling because either the individual has just been promoted and been given some increased responsibility and they're a little stuck, or the executive team is in an industry going under tremendous transformational change and they're not sure what to do, you have nothing to lose. Have them give me a call. I'll talk to them. And as you can probably tell, if there's a fit, I'll say it. If there's not a fit, I tell them that.
How would they get in touch with you?
They can email me or they can call me at 215-635-1455, or they can email me at michael@michaelseitchik.com. The only trick is spelling Seitchik right.
Michael, again, I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you, Charlie.
And as I said, you got some insights today that could be beneficial to you. Put them to use. See you again next week when I'll have another guest who's both authentic and genuine, who's going to give you the insights you need to get the edge you need. Thanks again for What's Your Story.
think right here should be good. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Looks good.
All right. Well, what's going on with the moon now? Where are we at?
I mean, we didn't really talk about the. I guess the eclipse energy is still hanging around because it was only Monday.
Yeah, but
that
Venus is direct with what? Jupiter?
Everything's direct right now.
Everything is direct. That's
Everything is direct. Right now, I think planets influencing Earth are Venus and Jupiter.
Okay.
I believe are the two planets influencing Earth right now. Honestly, I think the biggest thing people need to do between now and March, like this is your gateway.
Well, this is what we're going to talk about.
Golden hour, because you got from here until March 4th or 5th before Mercury goes retrograde.
Right, and this is what we're going to talk about. Because I think it's important to keep the plans because we bring it up so much. And sometimes astrology, I don't know how we're going to work out with that because we're taped now.
Yeah.
So for the horoscopes, but I do think that we can talk about the monthly lineups and what's going on and the energies.
Yeah.
Or, you know, maybe we showcase a, you know, a person of the week, like who's got a really good. If it's Aries or if it's, you know, like who's got a real positive vibe for that. You know, we'll put someone in the spotlight.
In the spotlight, okay.
Yeah, like we'll put Virgo in the spotlight and then we'll put a crystal in the spotlight.
Yeah.
For the week.
Yeah. That's where, I like the weekly thing because it's like people know to tune in for, like, they get a crystal of the week, they can get a zodiac sign of the week, they can get, and I think if you like close out the show, it's almost like the segment of the show, people are like, ooh, you know, and you wait to the end because then people watch the entire episode before you get to like the end segment.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of like a good way for us to segue out because it's like, all right, that's your crystal of the week, and it gives us a good segue out of the show because especially when you and I get talking, like it's harder for us to just cut a conversation than it is to know if we're just transitioning from segment to the end of the show.
Oh yeah.
You know?
I can't tell. We're not on. Wait, how about that thing I sent you about how the eye only sees a certain amount of what's going on?
Well,
that's deep. I took a picture of it.
What is it like?
That is deep. Well, it just goes to show you all the different dimensions. You got the spider dimension. You got the, you know, all those.
Right. It's what is it? It's we're only seeing. Was it 1/8?
I don't know what the exact. Let me see if I can pull it up. New text. Oh, okay. Let me see if I still have it. What the hell did I do with it?
Those spotlights look cool. There's like an orb around us. Like the aura.
Yeah. I don't know where it is. I think I just, I don't know if I sent it to you or whatever.
Yeah, I can pull it up. Because that's something good.
That's something really good to talk about. I just don't know where
We can talk about the dream state right now. A lot of people are going through a lot of healing and clearing through the dream state right now. So pay attention to your dreams. Make sure you journal them, you write them down, anything you can remember about them. Okay, so the human eye can only see between 430 and 770 is...
You guys ready?
Yep.
Which TH hurts?
Okay. Which camera? Middle?
Yeah, middle. Just look at me.
Okay.
Okay, so basically we're missing about...
A big chunk of it.
Yeah.
Basically, we're getting 20% of 80% out there.
Yeah, and I think that we need to talk about this so people can start to understand.
Yeah, I agree.
Look, we got orbs all over us.
I know. It's cool
Look,
looking. I like it.
Green.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, that's Raphael is the green angel.
It is. Yeah.
I know Oh, and it's all about healing.
It is.
The angel is healing. Channel that angel for you.
Yeah, I do a lot of work with Raphael and Michael.
Okay, well, not a
Those are my
coincidence I'm
two.
saying that.
Yeah, yeah.
And we'll talk about that.